Hi there guys, how's it going? Welcome on in. I was a little bit late to Mayhem, but I still wanted to participate, and it's been a really fun time so far doing so. And as I was getting into the early strides of my Atlas, I had a bunch of people in chat asking me what my target map was, how I was setting up to farm it, how I was going to get my 6th link, all those sorts of things. And I figured since I got so many questions on it, I'd make a little video going over exactly how I set up my Atlas this league at the start of it, or this event. Mayhem isn't really a league. In order to properly farm the div cards that I need to get a 6th link to craft on for the endgame. So this is what my Atlas looked like for the bulk of the farming process. As you can see, there's only one map over here in Tyrn's End, and that map is Desert Spring. Now this strategy is something that you can do with a variety of different maps. Very often it's done with Residence. It's a little less effective with Desert Spring because it's right next to Underground River, and there's no way to get that connection severed, so I will always drop some Underground Rivers, but with Mayhem mods, I was able to sustain enough Desert Springs to farm my set. As you can see here, the Imperial Legacy set that gives a 6th link Imperial Bow. And the way that I did that, the way that I set it up, so this is the only T2 on the Atlas, because if you look around, that is the only T2, is pretty darn simple, actually. I rushed through Lex Proxima, through Valdo's Rest, and through Glenark Cairns, out to the outer edges of those to get maps from Vestir, from Lyra Arthane, and from Ajoris. I then used those maps and prayed that I would drop adjacent ones in order to progress influence in those corners, so I could kill each of the Guardians that spawn in these corners, or each of the Conquerors, I should say, that spawn in these corners, and give me a Watchstone. Then with 3 Watchstones, you simply assign a Watchstone to Glenark, to Valdo's Rest, and to Proxima, and boom, Tyrn's End doesn't have one, making it so that Desert Spring is the only Tier 2 on the Atlas. You could replicate this process for a large number of maps. For some maps, it's more effective than others. This is very often done with Residence. Residence is a T2 that is not actually connected to any other T2s in Tyrn's End, so that means that it's very easy to sustain if it's your only T2 in this way. But you could, in theory, do it with something like Desert Spring and just accept that some of your maps are going to be Underground Rivers, or you could do it with Caldera if you want to farm for a Countshard, and some of your maps are going to be Dig, though I think actually Dig is a natural 6, so this might not be on the Atlas without a Watchstone here. So Caldera is next to Iceberg and Dig, which are both 3s, so Caldera would actually work really, really well. You could farm for a Countshard this way. You just need a Watchstone in Tyrn's End instead of a Watchstone in Glenark, and then you can sustain Caldera, just as another example that happened to pop out when I was looking over the Atlas. So there's a lot of flexibility here once you understand the theory as to why it works. Now the things you need to understand, or the things you need to understand to avoid, are completing any other Tier 2 map in Tyrn's End, as that will screw it up. If I had completed Moon Temple, then I would have diluted my pool even further. I would have dropped Desert Springs, Underground Rivers, and Moon Temples. If you're trying to do Residence, this is doubly important, as any other completed T2 makes it so you don't only get Residences. And you can also apply this strategy to higher tier maps, though it does require that you collect more Watchstones, so you have to spend more time setting it up. Because I could have run any T3 in Tyrn's End to get a Citadel here, and that Citadel would have allowed me to socket Watchstones into Tyrn's End, which would then mean that I can push Desert Spring up to being the only T5 or the only T9, or I believe the only T12 or maybe 13, I forget what it is at 3 or 4 Watchstones. Either way, the process is pretty simple once you understand the basics as to why it works. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them. You can also check me out on the Twitch stream, which will be linked in the description below, and, subscribe and all that sort of stuff. So I hope this was helpful to you. Thanks for watching.